Hey, it's Faye.
I posted a stop motion animation that I made a couple weeks ago, and I got some really great comments, and some people were asking how I made the puppets for it and the sets and stuff. And I got some cool footage of kind of behind the scenes of how I made everything. So this video is like a tutorial. It's also just kind of showing my process. Thanks for watching. So before I made the final puppets that were all colored and everything, I built prototypes just to make sure that they moved the way that I wanted them to. So I'll be showing you the process for how I made the joints that make all the characters stay together and move and kind of hold their poses. I also show the process of how to make the joints several times in this video, so if you miss it the first time, don't worry, I have it at different speeds if you're trying to follow along. So to start off, I drew out all the body parts separate from each other, because you have to cut them out and then connect them, so you can't draw them overlapping in any way. Then, super carefully, I used my X-Acto knife to cut out all the shapes. I tried to lay them out kind of in the way that they were drawn, so that I wouldn't get confused as to like what was a thigh and what was an upper arm and stuff like that. So the first joint that I filmed myself making is the one that connects the head and the neck. So I used a thumbtack to poke a hole only through the back layer, because the neck is going behind the head. I poked a hole through the neck. Then I cut a small piece of wire, and I bent it into an L shape. And then the point of the L should be placed exactly where you want the hole to line up. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think it's easier to see on the footage. There's the L. Then I used tape to secure the wire to the head. And then I bent the wire up towards myself, so it was sticking up in the air. And that was so that I could then push the neck onto the wire and down over the head. This part's really tricky. Easier for me because I have tiny baby hands, but if you do not have tiny baby hands, it can be kind of difficult. I was pressing the wire down and then coiling it into a really small spiral. And then this takes a little bit of practice to figure out how tight you want the coil to be, because if it's too loose, then the joint can't stay in place when you put it somewhere. But if it's too tight, it's too difficult to move, and your puppet might look kind of shaky when you're trying to film it. So it's about getting some good tension in between the middle. From there, every single joint just has to be made the exact same way. I think you can tell that it's easier when the puppet is larger to make the joints, which is not something that I did with this one. But yeah, if you make the pieces very, very small, it's difficult to make joints that are invisible to the camera. Because something that's important about stop motion is that you want your characters to sit very flat, and if their joints are really bulky, then they're going to stick up and then cause shadows to appear on the background. So here's the whole process again, just faster. I think here I'm attaching the arm to the body. Now this character was meant to be a pianist, and in the short he's carried around by the bear character for most of it, so I wanted his limbs to be super skinny and delicate, you know, like pianist fingers, but also look as if like he hasn't really walked around or anything in a lot of years, which is like my thought behind the character design. so that was the prototype. I learned a lot from making it, like how long the arms were supposed to be, because they look a little bit weird in the prototype. And I think that's why, it's valuable to try and make the prototype, because then you can understand what proportions you need to fix and how the character should be made so that it can move the way you want it to. So I think the rest of the process is pretty self-explanatory. The only difference when you're making the actual puppet is that I colored all the pieces in before I cut them out. I think that just makes it a whole lot easier, especially if you're using colored pencil, because then the little puppet isn't sliding around when you're trying to color it in. This is the process for the bear puppet. I really appreciate you watching. I really enjoyed making this video, and I think I would love to do more behind the scenes for the animations that I make, especially if you guys like this video. So, thank you. Goodbye.